The NFL trade deadline is right around the corner. That will happen on November 4th in the NFL. And there are a number of teams that can use some additional help, whether that be on offense or defense. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about some of the top trade candidates that are out there. Not all of them, but some of them that we're going to break down on today's episode. And we also have a football game later tonight with the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to talk about the old guy bowl. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, NFL fans? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby. So if you tuned in, love talking that NFL talk, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Man, are we having a couple good weeks of good football action around the NFL? We've seen some great games. We've seen some not so good games from certain players, but man, has it been fun to watch. And I am honestly surprised that we do not have an undefeated team right now in week 6, which is crazy work, but it's also good to keep that parity alive in the NFL. But let's talk about some of the trade candidates that are out there for other teams to go out there and potentially change the state of their team. I know when we talk about certain teams that are desperate for a change, you could definitely include teams like the Buffalo Bills. You may look at a team like the Bucks. You might see and hear things about the Chicago Bears. You might hear things about the Baltimore Ravens, etc., etc. I don't know where these players will end up, but I do know I have 5 good trade candidates that can go out there and change the state of an NFL team. The first guy up, we're going to talk about Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, outside linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. He is a guy that looks like he will be available for the Miami Dolphins. And so far in 2025, he has 17 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss on the season. And I think that Jalen Phillips could be a good addition for teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Ravens, or even the 49ers. And we just heard not yesterday, we just talked about the 49ers going out there and looking at a number of pass rushers to kind to replace Nick Bosa, at least for this season. I don't necessarily think that one of these guys that will be available or possibly is available can go out there and change everything for the 49ers when it comes to replacing Nick Bosa. But I think Jalen Phillips can be a guy that you can bring in and he will help you in a pass rush or generate a pass rush. And I will say that the Buffalo Bills could use, you know what I'm saying, or be involved in that if they want to go out there and shore up their defense. We shall see, though. The next guy on the list, I'm going to talk about Breece Hall, running back from the New York Jets. So far, Breece Hall in 2025, 88 rushes, 410 yards, 17 receptions for 150 yards on the season thus far. I think Breece Hall is one of those running backs that you can utilize in a number of ways. Right now, a lot of people are looking at the New York Jets, especially with no wins on the season for them as it currently stands before they play another game this weekend. It looks like the New York Jets might be heading to try to, stockpile assets to kind of reshape their team in the image of Aaron Glenn to try to help that team be in a better place and help them be able to start win football games. Right now, it is real iffy for the state of Aaron Glenn. It is not looking good for quarterback Justin Fields. A lot of people are questioning what the hell is going on with Sauce Gardner, and Garrett Wilson looks to be frustrated And I know there have been some reports that have came out and said that Brees Hall is not available, but they can say whatever they want to the media. It's not the first time we heard an organization or a coach come out and say that this guy is not available, and then said guy is ultimately traded. Teams that I think could use the services of a Brees Hall will be one, the Chicago Bears, depending on how they feel about their run game now that they had a good performance on Monday night versus the Washington Commanders. How do they necessarily feel at this moment? I don't necessarily know, but I think that Brees Hall could provide the Chicago Bears a little bit more stability in that run game that has struggled every single week before Monday night's game that they just played versus the Washington Commanders. Another team that Brees Hall can be useful on, in my opinion, is the team that the Chicago Bears face in the Washington Commanders. Me personally, I don't want Jaden Daniels running around so much. He's still a slender quarterback, and we've seen that he has suffered injury last year. He missed a couple games this year with injuries, and you don't want him running wild in this NFL, especially when you have a running back that's already good enough in Lil Bill Merritt over there running a rock with him. If you go out there and say try to acquire Brees Hall, now you have a two-headed monster in the backfield that can provide some stability for you and help you try to reach some of those goals that you have placed on the season. So we shall see. The next guy on my list is Geno Stone. He is a defensive back for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2025. Geno Stone has been filling up the stat sheet. 37 total tackles, one sack, two tackles for loss, one interception, one pass deflection, three QB hits. What else more do I need to say? Can I say a little bit more about Geno Stone? My goodness, he has been having a solid season for the Cincinnati Bengals. The good thing is when they talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and you look at the defense, they've been playing a little bit more aggressive with Geno Stone coming in and being able to hit guys, being able to drop down in the box a little bit more, being available in the pass game, getting deflections and, getting the interception and being just him, just being him. You know what I'm saying? Teams that I think that could use his services is number one, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, they have issues on their defense. I have an interesting question that if you're still listening, I want you to chime in on. But I have a question when it comes to the Buffalo Bills and the trade market. Do you guys feel that the Buffalo Bills need to attempt to trade for an offensive player or more so a defensive player? I will say that you should be trying to trade for both. Get a little bit greedy if you can. But one player, if you are trying to look at something for the defense, who I'm not going to talk about today, maybe a Bradley Chubb. You know what I'm saying? You can go and explore that option on the defensive side and maybe look at another offensive player that I'm going to talk about here shortly. But Geno Stone, I think, could be a great addition to the Buffalo Bills, or maybe another team that's trying to figure some things out on the defensive side. We shall see. We don't know where any of these guys will end up, but it will be interesting to see if somebody will go after Geno Stone. The next player on my list is Jacoby Myers, wide receiver from the Las Vegas Raiders. Not the best numbers in 2025 if we keeping it a buck, but in 2025, only 29 receptions, 329 yards thus far, and no touchdown for Jacoby Myers as it currently stands. However, I feel like when we just talked about the Buffalo Bills, this could be a guy that you can get for the low. Everybody know we want prices for the low. If you want to go out there, I think this will be a low risk, high reward potential trade that the Buffalo Bills can make to help their offense. Again, I brought up Bradley Chubb for the Buffalo Bills, but I also think that on the offensive side, that you can go ahead and help out Keon Coleman and Shakir and help out Dawson Knox and help out Dalton Kincaid and help out this offense. You can get another guy on the outside that can probably help you a little bit more. Another guy that we mentioned before on NFL Central was Chris Olave, and I don't necessarily know if he's going to be available. But we'll talk about him in a little bit for sure. And the last guy I want to talk about on today's episode is Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Edge. In 2025, Trey Hendrickson is off to a solid start. 15 total tackles, 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits. 8 QB hits. He hitting them, boy. The reason I'm thinking that the Cincinnati Bengals should be looking to move off of him is simply because I think you need to stockpile some draft picks. Now, with Joe Flacco coming in last week and playing a solid game versus the Green Bay Packers, that might change what the Cincinnati Bengals want to do a little bit. Not gonna hold you to see if he can help them remain steady until the return of Joe Burrow. So they might not be willing to move off Trey Hendrickson as of right now. However, if within the next few weeks Joe Flacco is not able to accumulate wins starting tonight for the Cincinnati Bengals, you might want to go out there and get you some additional draft assets by trading Trey Hendrickson. Anybody can use Trey Hendrickson right now. Not even gonna hold you. Not even gonna hold you. I know he will not be traded within the division. So I'm not gonna bring up Pittsburgh. I'm not gonna bring up the Baltimore Ravens. However, I know the Chicago Bears have had their struggles with the pass rush this season. We know that the Tampa Bay Bucks could use a little bit more oomph on their pass rush. I don't necessarily think they want to get in the business of the Buffalo Bills. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the Los Angeles Chargers could have some interest. I'm not necessarily sure because they did just re-up on Khalil Mack this offseason. So we don't know where any of these players will end up. However, there could be some fits that make sense for said players. Some guys that we did not talk about, that's Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. We have not spoken about them on today's episode simply because you have those players speaking out saying that they want to return or stay with the current team that they're on. And those teams, more specifically the New Orleans Saints, they're down there and they're not in bad shape per se. I think they're 2-4 in the season. They face the Chicago Bears on Sunday at 1, and that should be an entertaining game, and they can very well pull out a victory. A lot of people will go out there and hand the victory to my Chicago Bears, but the Chicago Bears still got a lot of things to prove for that game. You know what I'm saying? So we shall see. Let me know how you feeling about the 5 candidates that we put on the trade docket today. Let us know how you feel. Let me know if I missed anybody. I did bring up Bradley Chubb. We talked Alvin Kamara. We talked Chris Olave. I seen D Hop being thrown out there, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen per se. But anything can happen in this NFL world. But let me know your thoughts and everything down below. Now, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals in the old guy bowl. In the old guy bowl. I think that if you asking me, when it comes down to the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that this is an opportunity that the Pittsburgh Steelers have to take advantage of, because that schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers is only going to get a lot harder. It's only going to get a lot harder. It's only going to get a lot tougher for them. And you have to stack as many wins as possible. There are people that believe that the Baltimore Ravens can come back from start at 1-5 and take the division and make the playoffs from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers literally have this in the bag. They have, not necessarily in the bag, but the stuff is going down the conveyor belt and the cashier is scanning the items. All you got to do is put it in the bag. If the Pittsburgh Steelers hold on strong, they should be good, right? But my point is that after tonight, it only gets tougher. So you got to win this game if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you face the Green Bay Packers, the Indianapolis Colts, the Los Angeles Chargers, Divisional game against the Bengals again, the Chicago Bears, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. It ain't getting easier, bruh. It ain't getting easier. So you got to go out there if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and stack as many wins as possible to make it happen. But on the flip side, to the Cincinnati Bengals, we look at the Cincinnati Bengals and we say, hey, y'all did look a little better last week with Joe Flacco coming out there throwing the ball instead of Jake Browning, because Jake Browning looked like a deer in headlights on most drives in possessions. You know what I mean? I was like, what are we doing? He just sitting there, just going, moving it back. Yeah, moving it back. But at the end of the day, it's crazy. But I think that if you ask me, I'm going to go out there and say the Pittsburgh Steelers win this game. I just don't have that much belief in Joe Flacco. He does have a number of weapons that he can utilize. But however, the Cincinnati Bengals did just lose Mike Gesicki. But I believe they also have a rookie tight end that they drafted in this year's draft that they can lean on. So we shall see. But I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. I'm going to go 28-21. I'm going to go 28-21. Play it simple. Keep it cool. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the score, but something around that make a lot of sense. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of NFL Central. We are the number one spot for everything NFL. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football. And y'all already know we going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.